As Special Capital Improvements Project Committee. Call this meeting to order. We have 3 discussion items to be voted on tonight.
The first item is discussion, consideration, approving the minutes of the October 24th, 2017 meeting as submitted.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and I have a second.
We need a second, yeah?
We got a motion. Do I have a second?
Yes,
Second.
Gary.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Next item.
This is discussion, consideration of a request to fund the construction of approximately 160 feet of underground public drainage improvements in the 1600 block of Albert Drive at the approximate amount of $26,000 to serve properties located in the Willow Wind subdivision located in Section 12, Township 11 North, Range 2 West, Midwest City. You have the staff report here that describes the current situations along this this neighborhood street, Albert Drive, and the fact that there's been street settling along the curb line, which has resulted in a substantial amount of standing water. The engineering department has reviewed the local conditions and is recommending the construction of some curb inlets and installing a underground drainage pipe as being the most cost-effective and least disruptive option to eliminate the pooling of this water. All the work would be accomplished within the public right-of-way, and therefore no additional easements would be required. And then also that there wouldn't be any additional utility easements necessary. So proposed work is estimated to cost about $26,000 with staff doing the design work in-house and using a local contractor to install the system. As we are entering into the budgets cycle, and we are putting together the budget for consideration here in the next month, staff would recommend approval of the project, and with the idea that we would fund this, put this in next year's capital improvement project budget.
Move to approve.
Have a motion.
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Next item.
This is discussion consideration of a request to partially fund the construction of approximately 350 feet of water line improvements along the 10300 block of Northeast 7th Street, located between North Pine Street and North White Oak Street, at an approximate cost of $20,000 to serve properties located in the Harper subdivision, located in Section 31, Township 12 North, Range 1 West, Midwest City. The proposed item addresses a gap in the city's water infrastructure system affecting some properties along Northeast 7th Street. The applicant in this case, Mr. Moore, Jeff Moore, has asked for city assistance with funding the construction of this line as it's shown on the attached site plan. The installation of the water line will allow for the subsequent development of 2 additional lots into that would be created as a result of this extension, water line extension, and may very well cause the development of 3 additional lots further to the east as additional water line extensions are accomplished. As in the past, we have participated in utility infrastructure extensions, basically a 50-50 split with the improvement cost, plus the developer or the applicant is responsible for the engineering design for the work. So similar to what I said earlier, we'd like to go ahead and put this in the queue for next year's budget.
Move to approve, again, subject to funding for next year's budget.
Please let the record show that Mr. Moore recused himself from this discussion and vote. I do have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. No further discussion items on the Improvement Committee, so we are therefore adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Bachman, for being here. Now I call to order the Midwest City Council agenda for this evening. I would like to have you stand and call Mr. Sullivan to lead us in the invocation, and I will lead us in the pledge.
Would you pray with me, please? Father God, we come before your throne this evening, and we're asking your blessing upon this event tonight, this meeting. Father, we thank you and give you the glory and the honor for such a beautiful evening, such a beautiful day. Father, I'd ask that your blessing of wisdom and discernment be upon our council tonight. They have difficult decisions before them, and I'd ask that you be on their hearts and help them with these decisions. Father, we thank you so much for this great city and this state and this nation. Father, we're thankful tonight for men and women who are sacrificing to defend this great nation, the freedom that we have to assemble like we're doing tonight. Protect them, Father, give them peace and give them comfort. Ultimately, Father, we thank you for the sacrifice that you and your Son made. Thank you, Jesus, for being willing. Father God, thank you for being willing to send you and sacrifice your Son. And we ask all of this in his holy name. Amen.
Attention, salute, pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. We do have a few community-related announcements. Anybody from the Horseshoe? We've got the Junior Golf League opening up at Hidden Creek coming up in a month or so, and also the Junior Golf Tournament May 12th. If anyone interested in signing up for that, please contact either John Conrad or Hidden Creek. As relayed upstairs, we had over 1,000 tax returns completed by our VITA volunteers this year. They provide a free tax service for our citizens, and they do an outstanding job, and we appreciate what they do for our community. Are there any further community announcements?
Mayor, I'd like to mention that we have scheduled a couple meetings to roll out and solicit input from the citizens regarding a proposed general obligation bond issue. Those meetings have been scheduled for May 14th and May 17th at 6:30 in the City Council chambers. And also there is a special tree planting ceremony this Friday near the C-47 aircraft over in Regional Park, which celebrates and recognizes Gary and Linda Bands for all of the effort and work that they have put in, not only on the C-47 project, but just on many, many projects that have been accomplished throughout Midwest City over the years.
Thank you, Mr. Henson. Any further announcements? That being said, we move into our consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda, so the council. I'm sorry. Oh, okay, that's
Yep.
right. Sorry.
Hey, Gracie, are you happy about the street being done?
Can everybody hear me? This is Gracie Sullivan. Oh, people at home can't hear me. This is Gracie Sullivan. She's a resident of Oakwood East. Was the president of the Oakwood East Homeowner Association for many years. And when I was on the police department, had me on speed dial. But her and I have become very good friends over the years, and she has always been a big proponent of improving our city, planting trees, and just doing everything she could to improve the quality of life of our citizens. So it's very appropriate that she be here to accept this proclamation in honor of Arbor Day. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting of trees. And whereas this holiday is called Arbor Day, it was first established or observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and now is observed throughout the United States and the world. And whereas trees are one of the most important and sustainable, cost-effective tools of fighting climate change, reducing topsoil erosion from the wind and water, moderating the temperature, which cuts heating and cooling costs, cleaning the air, producing oxygen, and providing habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance economic vitality of our businesses, and beautify our community by providing a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Whereas the city of Midwest City is recognized as a Tree City, USA by the Arbor Day Foundation, we desire to continue tree planting, aligning with this year Arbor Day theme of Celebrate Arbor Day. So therefore, I, Matt Dukes, Mayor of Midwest City, do hereby proclaim April 22nd through 28th as Arbor Week. And I present this to Okay, now we can move into our consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so the council, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any one item proposed does not meet with the approval of all council or members of the audience wish to discuss an item, it will be removed and heard in regular order.
Motion. Motion to approve.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We'll move into the discussion items. First discussion item.
This is PC 1942, public hearing with a discussion and consideration of a resolution to amend the comprehensive plan from low-density residential to commercial and an ordinance to redistrict from R6 single-family detached residential to SPUD, simplified plan unit development for the property described as the west one-half of Lot 4, Block 2 of Couch Heights Edition, located at 9200 Northeast 10th Street. Kelly?
Yes, the applicant is the owner of Green Country Electric, and he is proposing to move his business from Choctaw to Midwest City, his electric business. He's purchased this property. It doesn't have enough frontage for commercial zoning, just straight commercial zoning, so he is having to go through the SPUD process to request a variance. That is the only variance that he is requesting, and Planning Commission recommended approval.
This is a public hearing. Anyone have anything to bring before the council on this particular item? Is there anything you'd like to address the council with, sir?
What I have been looking through.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I want to recognize myself. I'm Brandon Pitts. I'm the owner of Green Country Electric Supply Incorporated. It is my wish, has been since I bought the property, to get my home. I live in Midwest City. Been operating my company out of Choctaw, Nakoma Park for the last 4 years. Obviously, it's in my best interest to start paying my taxes to Midwest City and build something that I can be proud of and the city can be proud of as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here, sir.
I'll just say on that note that I really love that sentiment, and thank you for that. Thank you for coming home with your business. And if there's nobody else sign up for discussion, I would move to approve.
The chair has a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? And again, thank you for being here, and thanks for moving your business to Midwest City. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Board. Appreciate that.
Mayor, can you read the item?
Yes, sir, I sure can. Our next discussion item will be public hearing, discussion, and consideration of an ordinance to redistrict from hospitality to SPUD, Simplified Plan Unit Development, for the property described as lots 15 and 16 of Block 5 of Aviation Acres Addition, located at 1721 Hudeberg Drive. Kelly?
The applicants are requesting this SPUD to create a mixed-use development with both residential and high-density residential. Rose State College, the apartments are right across the street, and they've been very successful and have identified a need for more multifamily residential development in that area. Planning Commission did recommend approval, and as does staff.
And this is right across the street from the current apartments?
Yep, and the Rose State Technical Center as well. So it's right there in that area. We've also identified, have early plans for an innovation district in the area, and this does fit with that plan as well.
This is a public discussion. Anyone bringing or having anything to bring before the council on this particular item? Is the applicant, you have anything to say, sir, or anything to bring before council?
Not really. We've read it before. We're good with it.
All right, with that being said,
I appreciate the development in this area, and I thank you for that application, and I would move to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next discussion item is a public hearing with discussion and consideration of approval of resolution for a special use permit to allow the use of the child care center in the 01 redistricted office district for the property described as part of the southeast 4 of section 36 T12 North R2 West, located at 9909 East Reno. Kelly?
This property is currently zoned O1 restricted office with a special use permit for an adult daycare center. The ownership hadn't changed, but they did change the use to a child care center. They've realized that that's not compliant with their current special use permit, so they've just applied for a special use permit there for a child care center. Staff recommends approval, and so did the Planning Commission.
And it is currently occupied by a child care center.
Yes, it is.
That being said, any further discussion? Anyone having anything to bring before the council in discussion on it? Hearing none, the chair would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item number 4, public hearing, discussion, and consideration of approval of an ordinance to amend planned unit development for property described as Red Oak Development, a tract of land lying in the northeast quarter section of Section 11, T11 North, R2 West of the Indian Meridian, City of Midwest City. Kelly?
This is a request to amend the current planned unit development for the area. Within the original planned unit development, the height of signs wasn't referenced, so were required to meet the City of Midwest City codes. Our limit for freestanding signs is 20 feet in height, so they do have a 20-foot tall sign there for the Tinker Self-Storage. We've been in conversations with several owners of the Tinker Self-Storage over the last several years about their desire to raise their sign. Advise that amending the PUD is the way to go about that. So they are requesting to raise the sign 7 feet. They've had the sign surveyed, and that will bring it to grade level, so it would be a 27-foot tall sign. As it is against the sign code to have anything taller than 20 feet, Planning Commission and staff did recommend denial of the request.
So with that being said, do we need to take any action or just approve what council or what the commission is sent for?
The applicants are here.
I'm sorry, this is a public discussion. The applicants, you want to come talk to the council?
Hi,
Please state your name and address, please.
I'm Stacy Bell, 1951 Southwest Douglas Boulevard. You guys are so official up here. I love it. I'm like, oh, I haven't been here in a while.
Hi,
Desiree?
I'm Desiree Gary. I am the on-site manager at Tinker Self Storage, 1951 South Douglas Boulevard.
And we have been calling and trying to work out something to get our sign taller, and we brought some pictures just to kind of illustrate our point. We don't want a 27-foot sign. We just want it to be 20-foot grade level so that we have the same advantage of anybody on Douglas Boulevard, because we're kind of that 7.63 down in the hole. So just for the commercial frontage aspect. And we don't have any commercial frontage. Both of our neighbors, S&B and the dentist, are really awesome, and they would be happy if we could do the 4 times a year and put signs out. They both said, oh, sure, you can do it, but we don't actually own the land on the frontage, so we're back to the raising the sign. So I'd be happy to pass any of these out. No, sure, do that.
Kelly, while they're looking at that, one of my questions was if you could go into a little more detail on their, like the wall signage. They have some advertising also on the buildings themselves.
The PUD doesn't specifically reference wall signage within that development. And when it's not referenced in the PUD, it just reverts to the city code. And city code for wall signs has a maximum square footage of 500 square feet. So a business could have a very large wall sign. And they do have a sign on the side of the building. It's partially blocked by the, I've got a picture there, it's partially blocked by the commercial dumpster for that multi-tenant shop, but it is visible from the street.
Kelly, I have a question.
Sure.
So, where the S&B sign is and so forth, to the east of where the storage sign is? Right, that's where I'm headed. That tract of land right there, who has ownership of that?
That is, this business doesn't have frontage onto the
Right.
street. There's a common area, the common access area, and I believe, let me pull up the map.
Jeff Johnson on that?
Partially, that property line there, it's partially the dentist and then partially S&B, and Jeff Johnson doesn't own the S&B anymore. I think he owned that at some point, but it is under different ownership now, that parcel. So within the PUD, when it was developed, with this parcel not having any frontage, you will notice how it does kind of stick out, and that was partially to give them as close to street frontage as possible for advertising, but it just doesn't go all the way out wasn't able to go all the way out to the street.
So I guess my question was going to, if it was possible to get them, rather than going with a 27-foot sign ultimately, to get them something in that area, the same area where the S&B sign is and so forth, and get them, work to see if we could help facilitate them getting an easement or something on that line.
That would be off-premise advertising, and the sign code also prohibits off-premise advertising.
Mr. Mayor, we've kicked this can down the road so many times. I'm gonna bring it up again. And I realize prior council spent a lot of time on the signs, and a lot of people don't like variances. I drive by this place every day. I mean, it's 2 or 3 of my favorite places to eat are right close by. If I leave my house to go anywhere, it's down Douglas Boulevard. I sympathize with what these ladies are saying, because not only is their business away from the street, their sign is away from the street. So not only are they blocked by the height of the sign, their advertising is limited by the height of their sign, it's also limited by the trees and everything else in front of it. So, and we're trying to get people to, we just congratulated this guy for coming to Midwest City as a business. And I just think that we really have got to look at this ordinance, because we're hurting people that are trying to do business in Midwest City by keeping them so confined to a height or whatever. And I can sympathize with what they're saying, because you really can't see their sign where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, let me ask a
What
follow-up
about
question
the
if I
tree?
can.
You said the tree, could it be lowered, the tree where you can see the signs? You said that the tree was affected.
Trees aren't on their property.
Yeah, the
Okay.
trees aren't on ours.
So it's, the trees belongs to,
Which looks like it's
S&B,
coming out into this
they're on the frontage of S&B and on the frontage of the dentist office.
I don't know if they were planted by the city or planted by each of, or maybe Tom Strayhorn originally with, that part I don't know.
I would say they've been there for a while, and most of them are located in the right-of-way, which is city property.
okay.
So, what would it take to get their sign up on Douglas?
Well, rezoning the other properties to allow off-premise advertising on those properties. You know, I mentioned in pre-council that they do have some more room if they wanted to make a larger sign at the current height, or add a digital component to the sign to make it more visible. But moving it off to another site would require rezoning to allow off-premise advertising.
Mr. Burns, like we've discussed before, I agree with you. We need to re-look at this ordinance and tweak it a little bit. But on the other hand, I've asked the city, and we're undergoing a cleanup effort along our depot, where we've got signs that have been there for 30, 40 years that still exist, that the businesses don't exist. So we've got quite a quandary. Ladies, you have been given a couple of options to increase the size of your sign and add additional component, which is allowed by ordinance. Have you investigated those and the cost? I mean, it seemed like the cost of that would be less than raising the sign 27 feet.
Well, not 27 feet, just 7 feet, so that we were, had equal.
Yes, ma'am. But a digital component where it's located would definitely attract.
Well,
Will it still be blocked by the trees, or, it's just how visible it is from the street, not, how flashy it is. I mean, I'm sure
What kind
being
of
more
trees were those,
flashy
Kelly?
would help a little bit, but my biggest complaint are from our military that come in, and
I'm not sure.
I have several people that come in personally, and they're like, we just moved the area, we don't know the area at all, and I mean, he says he passes by every day, And for
As
people
do
that are
I.
moving, yeah, and so people moving in, especially military, they just pass it, and they have to call us like, hey, I've tried to find this, I have it in my GPS, it says I'm here, but I don't see it. So, I mean,
And those are the people that have already contacted us and looking for us. Most storages thrive with the drive-by tenants. I mean, usually it's the people that are driving by that think, oh yeah, I want to clean up my garage, a storm's coming, or just those immediate needs, or moving, or redoing, or it's typically the people in the area passing by.
I'm sorry, with all due respect, I mean, I understand the ordinance. However, that being said, I'm going to make a motion that we grant these ladies the variance to make the sign 20 feet from street grade. And whatever that equates to, being a 27-foot sign, that's my motion.
Second.
Well,
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item?
Could I just interrupt? This is a modification to the SPUD,
To the
correct?
PUD,
To the
yes.
Plan Unit Development. And they have requested that they be allowed to increase the height of their
Their existing sign
their
by
existing
7
sign
feet.
by 7 feet. That's really the more appropriate, the more appropriate motion would be to recommend the approval of the amended PUD.
Well, I guess my question with that, though, is if we recommend the amendment to the PUD, then that is a forever aspect, follows the land, does it not, Kelly?
It would follow
And
the
so,
land.
whereas if we grant them a variance for this specific sign to be 20 feet from, off of street grade, excuse me, however you want to word that, this is a single instance variance, and that's what I would like to do.
You could state the freestanding sign for parcel 2, which are tract, I believe it's tract B is what it's called. The freestanding sign for tract B be allowed to be 7 feet.
20
above.
feet from street grade is,
Right.
that's how I'd like it worded, that's what I would like to do.
You know, I feel like you're really opening a.
I
I
absolutely agree, I am,
Can-
but I'm,
You know, the same thing on if a guy's above the street, he's, 7 feet above grade, now he's at 27 and not 20. And at times, I mean, even if they could build, when they built the base, if they could have built that area up with the retaining wall, then the grade is street grade.
and
But
I'm- And I appreciate that, Jeff, but ultimately, we spend a lot of time on this council dealing with the sins of the past. Either it's drainage issues or whatever. We have encouraged development, and we're either gonna move to be a model city or we're not. And we have authorized millions of dollars in investment in our business community, and this, in my mind, is just another example. So I would like to see it happen. I would like to increase the visibility. We're opening a can of worms. I'm okay with that because ultimately, these ordinances need to be reviewed and modified, is my opinion, and I stand behind that. So y'all can support my motion or not, but that's my feeling about it.
How long y'all been in business?
It's 3 years old. We didn't develop it. We bought it after it had just opened after a few weeks. So essentially, this at the end of last month, 3 years. We've been trying every which way to get advertising out and get the word out. And I mean, ultimately, you want to do well enough to pay your taxes and pay
Sure.
your people and pay. And the long-term goal is to develop more, invest more in Midwest City with the land behind it, which I believe is platted for an apartment complex, whether it's that at that time or senior something or who knows what. But we're kind of at that. We're just just teetering of trying to stabilize because
I mean, we buy sponsorships for all of the community. I mean, I personally love being a part of this community. I have never met a more beautiful and more family-oriented community. We did Picnic with Protectors. We what was that? What was that parade? The Veterans Parade. I'm sorry. We did the Veterans Parade. Me and my husband and my little 2-year-old, we walked it. And I just love all the events that gets put on around here. And like I said, we try and buy sponsorships to get our name out there. And it's just, you know, getting people in there and trying to find it. We get a ton of calls, and then, you know, nobody shows up, and they're like, well, I couldn't find you, so I went down the street, or, you know, I called U-Haul, and they got us set up somewhere else. And it's just like, it just really kills the business, because it has been open 3 years, and at stabilization is, you know, when we start making money. And I just feel like it's kind of at its detrimental point where, you know, we need to start doing something in order to get more people in and see where we're at, because, you know, that's not just hurting our
Well,
business.
we
but-
appreciate the fact that you're a part of the community. Obviously, we like that. You also have to understand, when we do something on this council, it just not affects 7 people on this council, but 57,000 other people, plus the business owners. And then we have to reap the consequences one way or another. I don't have an issue with the granting the variance, but I have to agree with Mr. Moore that once we do this, and Kelly, I've got to have your assurance that this is a one-time deal. And then I'm going to challenge my council members that we need to sit down and look at this ordinance. I've been saying it a year. And we need to sit down and look at this ordinance and figure out where we can tweak it to prevent some of these issues. And so, with that being said, I do have a motion and I have a second.
Well, before we vote, I think we need to make sure what we're voting on
Yes, sir.
is what Mr. Henson told us the proper language should be. Knowing where we're trying to get, Mr. Henson, what would be the proper verbiage that we need to vote on?
I'm gonna ask for a little help from Kelly, because I think she knows the situation a little bit better, but it would be to authorize the increase in the height of the sign on Lot 2 of the Red Oak development, the existing sign on the Red Oak development, and we'll wordsmith this into the PUD.
Yeah, and it'll be tract B.
Track B of the Red Oak development. So it applies strictly to that existing sign.
That's my wish. That was my motion.
Second,
So I renew that.
and I renew my second.
City Clerk, you've got
And I'm sorry, I forgot to turn my mic on for that, Sarah. Sorry.
Okay, we do have a motion and we have a second.
Motion.
Any further discussion? I will call roll call vote on this.
Ward 1, 2,
Aye.
3, 5,
Is this, as stated for track what, 2?
track B,
B? Yes. Okay. Yes.
6.
Nay. No disrespect. It's just, in my opinion, it's going to create some other issues.
Can I ask you one question?
Sure.
Did you own storages before?
I have.
Okay, I thought we'd met before.
Mhm.
Yes, okay. You would agree a lot of your business is from drive-by, though?
They say internet. I don't advertise much, and I wasn't involved in it, but they say that the internet advertising is where 90% of your business comes from in storage anymore. But
Well, we
who
do,
knows?
like Google is definitely way bigger than Yelp. I mean, we monitor all of that, but nothing beats who you pass by every day.
And for the record, the mayor votes aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for being here.
Thank
And,
you. We'll make you proud.
And I will note, your next step would just be to have a licensed sign contractor contact me, and we'll help them with the permit process. Don't pick the,
Yes.
just,
Yeah.
and it has to be permitted, so.
Are you kidding? We will not screw this up. Thanks, you all. Appreciate it.
Oh,
And the motion does carry. Next discussion item. Thank you, ladies, for being here.
This is discussion consideration of accepting a preliminary feasibility study report associated with the land near the Water Resource Recovery Facility from C.H. Guernsey Engineers, Architects, and Consultants. In February of this year, the council entered into a contract with Guernsey to provide a preliminary feasibility study report associated with city-owned land near the Water Resource Recovery Facility on Northeast 36th Street. The company, Guernsey, will deliver bound copies of the report to you this evening, and I think we have a brief PowerPoint presentation as well. So, Vaughn?
Thank you, Mr. Henson, for cleaning up my spelling error there. Apologize for that. We have representatives from C.H. Guernsey, Theron Smith, Ken Sr., and Carl Stuckley, who are here tonight to give you a very brief presentation and a hardbound copy that goes into much more detail than they will go into in their presentation to you tonight. Just for background, we have been approached by Waste Management to utilize some of the dirt off this land, and so you approved a contract, as it says in the memo, to hire them to basically what they're going to do tonight. They're not giving you a feasibility study, okay? I want to make that very clear. This is simply a 40,000 foot view, if you will, of what we will be getting into if we choose to go into a feasibility study, go down a very lengthy and arduous road to be able to do what we would like to be able to do, and to, as part of we do go to a feasibility study, it'll go into a lot of detail about whether this is the best use of the land and that sort of thing. But they're going to tell us what we're going to get ourselves into tonight is all they're here to do. So I'll turn the floor over to
So we're not using signals. Okay.
You need to really keep an eye on this guy. He's a real sleight of hand fellow that I've known for quite a while. So,
All right. Thank you for having us here this evening. Okay, Kelly, which one is the advanced? The one on the right? There we go. All right. The purpose of this presentation is to, and Vaughn really covered this already, just talk a little bit about what a feasibility study would look like if we were to go forward with a feasibility study. The subject property that Waste Management has acquired is the old sand pit that sits right along 23rd Street, acquired that in October of 2017. Midwest City owns a tract of land, 185 acres, that's on the east side of where Air Depot, just north of 23rd Street, is shown as the green on here. And simply put, Waste Management would like to use this for borrow material. There's at least another source that we understand Waste Management is talking to about obtaining this borrow material as well. So the tract of land, the current conditions on this tract of land, it's mostly agricultural use. Would want to point out that in the middle, where the little arrow from the lower left points up to the land application, that particular area is used for land application when the treatment plant needs to do land applications. Not very often, but it is very convenient for the treatment plant because it does not involve crossing Crutcho Creek to get to it. In addition to that, this tract of land has a constructed wetlands on it that was constructed as an offset for a wetlands taking a number of years ago, so that has to be taken into consideration as well. The rest of it is fairly natural stream corridor area. Looked at the soils on this. The biggest thing we want to point out on this is to look at what kind of bedrock would be below, how much dirt is really here, where's the bedrock below that, and then where's the groundwater, because that would be important in any development that you would do, particularly if you're going to dig down into this area. There are environmental concerns. There's been a lot of oil and gas activity as shown by these little well symbols on here. In addition, there are pipelines that run through with the purple line as shown on there. There are water wells on the tract. We saw at least one. There may be others. There are several that surround this tract of land. And then the railroad is always an environmental concern. It cuts through the west side of the property. And there are, of course, the landfill to the west of it, and there are a couple of underground storage tanks to the east and south of the property. So all told, those are your environmental concerns that would have to be looked at before this property would be used for a borrow area. Is there going to be surface cleanup? Don't know yet. There are oil and gas lines that go across this area. In addition to that, there are some injection areas and injection wells that have been on the property. Don't appear to be active right now, but it brings the question of, is there any subsurface contamination on this area? Flooding, I was actually surprised. I've worked on Crutcho Creek a lot, which is what Guy knows me for mostly. And the green area is an area of this property that is not within the floodplain. And I was surprised to see that this property actually, not all of it is in the floodplain as I originally suspected. The floodway is the shaded area, that's the crosshatched area, and then you can see the 100-year floodplain and the 500-year floodplain, but a significant part of this land is not actually in the floodplain. There was an earlier concept done for this property, and actually a little area that's a little bit larger than this property, that envisioned some lakes, wetlands area, public use areas, envisioned some trails, fishing docks, and things of that nature. That concept was done about 10 years ago. Superimposed that concept on the tract of land, the 185 acres that you have now, and you can see that at least a part of that fits within the footprint of the property that's owned by Midwest City, this 185 acres. We've been through the pre-feasibility study, the site reconnaissance and all those things. That's where we are right now, the presentation of the City Council. We would recommend that if you wanted to go forward, there would be a letter of intent with Waste Management about going ahead with the feasibility study study itself, then a detailed environmental study and engineering design, followed by monitoring oversight. A feasibility study sort of broke down what the components of that would be if you wanted to go forward, including some data collection, appraisal of the land value, what's the asset valuation of this property, develop alternative concepts, perform an environmental analysis, prepare a study report, and that's our quick 40,000 foot look at this. Do you have any questions for us on that pre-feasibility study? We've given you a copy of it. There's a lot more in there than what I presented because I was told that I had to be less than 10 minutes. So,
Well, I do have a question.
Yes, sir,
Just
Mayor.
exactly refresh my memory. What does Waste Management want to do with that property?
they want to develop another cell for their landfill.
For their landfill?
Yes, sir.
So we're gonna, before we sell this, we're gonna have to jump through all those hoops to sell it to them.
That would be one option of what you would do. Someone is going to have to do this work. Because of the floodplain in there and because of the other things, someone's going to have to contact the Corps of Engineers. Someone's going to have to go through the regulatory compliance. The question is, who would that be? But someone's going to have to do that. Yes, sir.
I would just say motion to accept the report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thank you for being here and give us that 40,000 foot look at that. I
You're welcome, Mayor.
appreciate it. Have a good night.
Next item is discussion consideration of filling the position left vacant on the subdivision regulations update task force committee when Rick Dawkins concluded his council term.
Make a motion to appoint Jeff Moore to that position.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to appoint Jeff. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Next item for discussion.
This is discussion consideration of a resolution approving the issuance by the Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority of its tax apportionment refunding bonds, taxable series 2018 Sooner Rose Increment District Project. The bonds, waiving competitive bidding on the sale of the bonds, approving the negotiated sale of the bonds, authorizing officers to take additional actions relating to the bonds and other matters relating thereto. Our legal counsel, Dan McMahon with Riggs Abney, is in the audience here, and either between Mr. Coleman or Mr. McMahon, I think they can answer any questions you might have. Dan, you want to say a few words?
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate the opportunity to be here. It's my privilege tonight to discuss a resolution that would authorize or approve the issuance by the hospital authority of the financing that's needed for the Sooner Rose Increment District project. You may recall that last year we did interim financing on that project, and the interim financing is coming due in July 1. we've proceeded well, I think, along with the project, and we're to the point where we can do permanent financing. This resolution before you is to approve on behalf of the city the issuance by the authority, and that's a requirement of state law that we get your permission as city council members as well as your permission as authority trustees. So there'll be a companion resolution on the hospital authority agenda a little later, but it's for the same purpose. Be happy to answer any questions you may have regarding the financing.
Any questions?
Well, so far I am. There's a few details that need to be worked out, but I think from the standpoint of the project is far enough along that we can make the kind of representations to the bondholders that they would expect us to make at this point. And so everything I've seen has been very positive on this. But from a financing standpoint, I'm comfortable that we're well within the project plan based on the underwriter's numbers. We will be needing to amend the project plan for certain technical reasons, but I think this is exactly what we have proposed to the review committee members and what they signed off on as part of that process. So hopefully this is very consistent with everything we've discussed with this council in the past, but if there's some issues that you'd like me to address specifically, I'd be happy to do it.
Thank you. Thank you. I motion to approve it. Motion to approve. I want to say thank you very much for working it. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
Oh, I have a motion.
Oh.
Do I have a second?
Okay.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on this item? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Thanks, Dan, for being here. Appreciate it. Next item.
This is discussion consideration of one, approving and entering into an economic development agreement with Sooner Investment Incorporated and the Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority in an approximate amount of $875,000 and other good and valuable consideration to establish the terms and conditions under which the parties will participate in the development of approximately 6.874 acres located between Buena Vista and Crosby Boulevard north of Southeast 15th Street, and authorizing the chairman or general manager or administrator to enter into such other agreements and execute such other documents as may be necessary or appropriate to effect the provisions of the agreement.
Mayor Dukes and council. These two agenda items and the two that are on the authority agenda represent the development finance assistance agreements for the third and perhaps final phase of the Sooner Road Shopping Center development. And I'd like to describe a little bit about what our commitments are and the results that we expect to see out of this. You may remember we talked about the public improvements, and we plan to do about somewhere in the neighborhood of $503,000 in public improvements, and these include the stormwater detention pond, water distribution line extensions, and storm sewer improvements along Crosby Boulevard. In addition, we're contributing the land to this development that we purchased as part of the Volodman property by, I think it was a little year and a half ago, that enabled us to start the Warren Theater project. And we're also reimbursing minor engineering costs and paying for about $16,000 worth of sanitary sewer extension. The second agreement that you have behind this one is for Allison's Fund Incorporated. On the Allison's agreement, our only contribution is land. We will give them, I think it's 3.06 acres for the development of a very unique fun and entertainment area, and we have with us tonight Mr. Leland Clark from Sooner Investments to talk a little bit about what they're going to do. And we have a very special guest, Mr. Russell Allison with Allison's Fund Incorporated out of Norman, and he's going to talk about his Andes Elevation Project.
Let's start off with the fun.
Thank you very much for having us tonight. I'm Russell Allison. I'm with Andy Alligator's Fun Park and Water Park in Norman, also Allison's Fun Incorporated in Norman. 25 years of family entertainment. We're a family-owned business. First of all, this project came to us out of the blue. 4 years ago, we were scouting properties in this area, literally a quarter mile from where we're looking to go at now. We knew it was the right place. We wanted to stop everybody from Shawnee going into Bricktown, and we wanted to gain those dollars. We've been very successful with that in Norman. We're getting people literally from Ardmore up, and now we want to stop the influx from the east. And what can we do? So we come up with an indoor project, and it's right-sized for your city. It's not a main event. It's not a huge 50,000 square foot facility. We want to right-size it because, honestly, we all want to make money, and I want to pay taxes to you, and I want to be able to do that. So what we come up with about a 26,000 square foot area, all indoors. Some of our other properties are outdoors, but we feel that indoors is the right situation and the right size for this area. And what we're going to do is family fun. And we want to do a nice restaurant. We want to do an outdoor seating area, an outdoor play area, Pokeball, everything that you can do with that. We want to have laser tag, a 2-story laser tag. We want to have a very extremely nice laser tag. Bumper cars. We want to have about 60 games in the arcade area. And we want to have some unique things, which I think to this area that you guys really will enjoy. We want to do 12 lanes of bowling. And this is not league bowling. I mean, if anybody's a league bowler, this is not league bowling. This is lights and fun. This is get down on the lanes, eat, get your greasy chicken fingers down, the ball slips out, and everybody laughs. Lots of audiovisual, lots of lights. We want to do that. And then we want to bring some new things into the city, too. Some of the things, actually, that will be first to our properties is we want to do virtual reality. And we want to bring all that in, put it together, and package it. And we want to draw the people from this area because these people are ready to play. I'm sorry, there's not a lot of places to go to around here. And we think it'll be extremely beneficial to the city. And we think it will be, obviously, want it to be beneficial to us. And with your help, it's made it be possible to put it here, to be honest. I'll just be flat out honest. With your help, that's what makes it possible. Any questions? Anything?
Well, I can tell you that aside from the Warren, this is going to generate just about as much excitement. I think all of us are in agreement, and we'll testify to the fact that our kids don't have anything to do. And with your facility and with the Warren Theater, this is going to be a game changer for our community.
It will be definitely an entertainment district.
And we appreciate it, and we truly do. And I'll just, I know everybody else is wanting to say something, so thank you for being here this evening, and we appreciate it. We truly do.
I'm going to jump in there. We've visited before, and you came out to neighborhood meetings and proved your concept to folks in Ward 1. You're coming into Ward 1. We thank you. We appreciate it. I have a lot of constituents that are excited. They're ready to sign up to have birthday parties at your facility as soon as it gets on the ground.
And don't forget their kids need to sign up to work, too.
And I have a teenager that I'm sure would be more than happy to go, and she's certainly frequented your facility to the south. So I thank you, and with that, I would move to approve this
I'm
concept.
going to be very short. I'll be very short about this, but I like your motivation about your facility, and as motivated as you are, I'm sure you probably enjoy some of the fun there at your own facility. Am I correct?
I do. I get to go to work every day. No, I don't. I actually have fun every day.
I really like your enthusiasm about your project.
It's going to be a good project. We're very excited.
Well, and I have to say that it's been a long time coming. I haven't been on the council that long, but I've been preaching about this for years.
Entertainment.
entertainment for kids to have someplace to go, something to do. And I applaud you for that.
Thank you.
And I
And
want to
I'll-
add to that, I want to thank you too, because this started on a really bumpy airplane ride to Houston, Texas, about 2 years ago. That myself and Mr. Coleman and Councilman Dawkins, man, we didn't think we were going to make it back. And we saw a theater and your concept together. And we did not think it would work under one roof in Midwest City. But we thought it would work under two roofs.
I went to Dallas 4 weeks ago, and literally in 46 hours, we visited 17 entertainment centers. So I know exactly what you're saying. You have to right-size it for the community.
Well, we have a population base here that when they go to the movie theater, they don't want to walk through what you're going to give for the kids. They want to go to a movie theater and sit down. And because I'll go play your games too, but if you go to a movie, you want to go to a movie. You don't necessarily want to walk through an arcade. So
true.
thank you very much.
And as a matter of fact, I'll even sign up to have my 63rd birthday there.
Okay, it's done. We've already got the package
And
ready.
we
I'll
would
get
be
the.
very, very, very remiss not thanking Elvis.
Well, obviously. The Reverend, thank you. Thanks again. We appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you for making this happen.
You know, it's been on the going for about 4 years. When I came and our past council members, they have actually said the same thing. We would need some entertainment, we need some movies, and it's happening. So, good job.
With that being said,
Renewing my motion to approve.
We're
on-
actually still on D8, which is the Sooner Investment Agreement, and I was hoping we
Yes.
could lure Leland out of the crowd to talk about what they plan to do.
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Allison. You may recognize this fellow. This is Leland Clark with Sooner
Oh, yes.
Investment Incorporated, 2301 West I-44 Service Road, Oklahoma City.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you. Hard act to follow there.
Well, we heard the exciting part of this Sooner Rose 3 development, and we, as a developer of the Sooner Rose project, are extremely excited to have Allison as part of this. We are developing about 6.5 acres next to the entertainment center, and we envision as they open for business and as Warren opens for business, that being the two real draws to this area. And we will have, the current plat calls out 3 out parcels for restaurants, and we envision high-quality restaurants on those out parcels. And we will have the ability to develop about 17,000 square feet of retail, entertainment, the things that will fit between the Andy's Altitude and the Warren Theater. And very excited about the direction this part of this development is going. And I would be remiss not to say that as I speak on behalf of all the partners and Sooner Investment, we appreciate all of your support and your help in pulling all of this thing together. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
And
Mr.
If
Clark.
you have any questions, I'll be happy to
And
answer.
thank you as well. So we have 2 items that I guess we need motions on. Discussion item 8. I need,
I'll go ahead and, I'm sorry, I thought we had done 8, so
Yeah.
I had jumped to 9, but I'll go ahead and move to approve 8
We
and
already
separately to approve 9.
okay,
You want to do them one at a time?
one
Yeah.
at a time.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I need-
motion to approve item 8
A motion.
as
A
addressed.
second?
I have a second.
Okay.
Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. Next item, I would entertain a motion.
I need to-
Motion
I
to
need to-
approve item 9 as addressed.
He's got to read it first.
He's got it. I'm sorry, I jumped ahead to.
Discussion consideration of 1, approving and entering into an economic development agreement with Allison's Fund, Inc. and the Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority in the approximate amount of $1,170,000 and other good and valuable consideration to establish the terms and conditions under which the parties will participate in the development of approximately 3.04 acres located between Buena Vista and Crosby Boulevard and north of Southeast 15th Street, and authorizing the chairman and or the general manager, administrator to enter into such other agreements and execute such other documents as may be necessary or appropriate to effect the provisions of the agreement. Now you may make
No motion.
a motion.
Yes, hold it, hold on, sorry. Yes, the revised copy, right? That was, do you want to clarify that, Phil?
Yeah, I just think we need clarification
Okay.
on the
Let's
motion.
back that up, sorry, to go back to the last item on number 18, to clarify. There was a revised agreement. I want to make sure that, I'm sorry, Phil's exactly on point here. The revised agreement that we received this evening, right before April 24th version. Thank you, Robert, sorry. That was what I was moving to approve with all the incorporated revisions through April 24th, just to clarify on the record, Madam Clerk.
Second.
You got that?
Do we need to
Okay.
review that vote, or are we okay?
Just for the record, let's go ahead and entertain a motion on item A to include the improved language on the agreement.
The April 24th.
The April 24th version is what I'm moving to approve on item number 8.
Okay.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Now, I would entertain a motion on item number 9.
Going to item number 9 for the, I think, 4th time.
Pardon our enthusiasm.
I would, I am moving to approve the April 23rd version of that agreement with regard to item number 9. And I might be switching to decaf soon.
Okay, we do have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We now move into the new business public discussion of our agenda. Anyone having anything to bring before the council on the council agenda? Hearing none, we do have, I'm sorry.
You may come up and address the council. It will not be possible for the council to act on anything this evening.
I just wanted to be aware of something. Kathy Burley, 2541 Hand Road, Midwest City. About a month ago, you guys said that you would give us 90 days to get enough people to sign up to get water out on Rofan and Hand Road, and you was going to send out a letter. It's been 28 days and no letter.
Okay, ma'am, I will follow up with our community development department tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here, ma'am. Anyone else having anything to bring before the council on the public information and new business? Hearing none, we do have 3 further information items I call your attention to. No action is required on these items. If there's no further discussion, we are hereby adjourned. I call to order the Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority. We do have a consent agenda on this agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so that the trustees, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of all trustees or members of the audience wish to discuss an item, it will be removed and heard in regular order. Chair would entertain a motion. Have a motion?
A second.
Have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? We have 4 discussion items on the agenda. Or 6, I'm sorry.
First item is discussion consideration of appointing a Ward 6 nominee to the Board of Grantors, replacing Nancy Rice, who is terming out on May 13th, 2018 for a 4-year term ending on, and this would be for a 4-year term ending on April 26, 2022.
Mr. Moore, you have anybody in mind?
I don't right now at the moment, Mayor. If you can wait one more meeting, I'll have it then.
So
Or if y'all want to.
Chair, we can table this motion and bring it back.
So we need a motion to continue.
Have a motion? Second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Second item is discussion, consideration of action to reallocate assets, change fund managers, or make changes in the statement of investment policy guidelines and objectives. No action is necessary on this item. Item number 3 is discussion, consideration of a resolution authorizing the issuance of the authority's tax apportionment refunding bonds, taxable series 2018, Sooner Rose Increment District Project, the bonds, and waiving competitive bidding on the sale thereof, authorizing and approving execution and delivery of the bonds and all documents relating thereto, authorizing officers to approve, execute, and deliver a certificate of determination in connection with the bonds, authorizing the preparation, filing, and distribution of an official statement, authorizing officers to execute and deliver the bonds, authorizing officers to take additional actions related to the bonds, providing for an effective date and containing other provisions relating thereto. Mr. McMahon?
Mr. Henson, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's again my privilege to present a resolution for your consideration that would authorize the issuance of tax apportionment refunding bonds by the Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority. As we discussed on the City Council agenda, this is the permanent financing piece for the Sooner Rose Increment District Project. You've heard some wonderful news tonight about some of the new businesses that are going into this. I'd like to thank you all for your support on setting up this increment district, and I hope you feel like it's worked as advertised and as we had hoped it would. There's some very good things in the offing, and with this final financing piece, I think we can assure the citizens that it's going to be paid for, the project costs are going to be paid for in a responsible manner that won't drag down the other needs of the city going forward. So I think this will be a long-term plus. Be happy to go through the resolution and answer any questions you may have on that.
Does anyone have any questions, Mr. McMahon? If not, the chair would entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you again, Dan, for being here.
Mayor and council, let me say thank you for all your support on this project. It's been a lot of fun, and it's a real honor to be associated with this project in this city. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Next item is discussion consideration of 1, approving and entering into an economic development agreement with Sooner Investment, Inc. and the City of Midwest City in the approximate amount of $875,000 and other good and valuable consideration to establish the terms and conditions under which the parties will participate in the development of approximately 6.874 acres located between Buena Vista Avenue and Crosby Boulevard north of Southeast 15th Street, and 2, authorizing the chairman and/or general manager administrator to enter into such other agreements and execute such other documents as may be necessary or appropriate to effect the provisions of the agreement.
This same two items coming up that we discussed on the last agenda, so the chair would entertain a motion.
I entertain a motion to approve.
A second.
And just to clarify, and again, we're approving the version that was the 424 version on item number 8. Now 4 on the Hospital Authority agenda.
Yes, ma'am.
Is what we're moving to approve, just for clarification, right? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions. Next item.
Discussion, consideration of one, approving and entering into an economic development agreement with Allison's Fund, Inc. and the City of Midwest City in the approximate amount of $1,170,000 and other good and valuable consideration to establish the terms and conditions under which the parties will participate in the development of approximately 3.04 acres located between Buena Vista Avenue and Crosby Boulevard north of Southeast 15th Street, and 2, authorizing the chairman and/or the administrator or the general manager/administrator to enter into such other agreements and execute such other documents as may be necessary or appropriate to effect the provisions of the agreement.
Again, as with the item on the council agenda, we're moving to approve what was the April 23rd version of this agreement, and I have so moved again here on the hospital agenda.
Okay, I have a motion.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Ladies and gentlemen,
No,
moving.
we've got one other
Oh,
agenda.
I'm sorry, we got one other.
This is discussion consideration of supplemental budget adjustments at the Hospital Authority Fund for FY 2017-2018. Increase Hospital Authority Fund revenue / Hospital Authority 90 by $148,410. Expenses Hospital Authority 90, $546,400. These go along with the work that we just authorized.
Move to approve.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions. Now we move into the new business public discussion of our agenda for the Midwest City Memorial Hospital Authority. Anyone having any business to bring before the authority? Hearing none, we are hereby adjourned. I call to order the Midwest City Municipal Authority. We do have a consent agenda. These items are placed on the consent agenda so the trustees, by unanimous consent, can approve routine agenda items by one motion. If any item proposed does not meet with the approval of all trustees or members of the audience wish to discuss an item, be removed and heard in regular order. Chair to entertain a motion.
Entertain a motion to approve.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion on the consent agenda? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We have one discussion item.
This is discussion consideration of awarding the bid and entering into a contract for curbside single stream recycling with Republic Services of Oklahoma City. Paul, you want to give us an overview here?
We've reached the end of our current contract, 5-year contract that is currently with Republic Services for curbside single stream recycling. We're recommending that we enter into another 5-year contract. We did go out for bids. Those bids were opened, and Republic Services offered the lowest and best bid, continuing to provide the same curbside single stream recycling that we have right now. The price we chose, we had several options. The price we recommended to you was the flat rate, which will not fluctuate based on commodities or any of the other issues related to contamination. And so we thought that was probably the easiest thing to budget for and the safest decision with regard to the citizens and obviously continuing the quality of the services they're currently provided. Are there any questions?
Any questions, Ms. Street? Is there any
What-
further discussion?
I'm
sorry. Go ahead.
I'm going to raise this issue, and this may not necessarily be the ideal way to raise it, but here we go. So I raised a question about the recycling. It was addressed in terms of what our other options were with regard to a recycling program. For example,
Yes,
if
ma'am.
it was feasible for us to look at doing it on an in-house basis. The upshot of what I understood from the information provided was that the problem is that Republic seems to have an exclusive arrangement for the MRF through 2020, as I recall, so that we're looking at least 2 years before we would be able to have feasibility in order to take product to the MRF. Is that correct?
Correct. We are limited because it is the only independent MRF in the Oklahoma City Metro.
When we bid this, and I apologize, I should know the answer to this, but when we bid this, we put it out to bid as a 5-year proposal. Is that correct?
Correct. Typically, that's how the contracts work for municipal authority.
Okay. But ultimately, we do have the ability, do we not, in order to agree to wrench this down to be a shorter term rather than the 5-year? I mean, we asked for bid, they gave us a bid for 5. Do we have the ability to alter that to be, for example, a 2-year term?
Paul, did we include any language in the RFP that would allow that?
I'm not aware of any.
Because what I'm seeing is the flat rate estimate, and I apologize, maybe, I'm not sure if
No, that's okay.
I'm misunderstanding this, but, and so if the flat rate applies, and it applies monthly, it didn't seem to, there's an escalation.
Correct. There's a 3% escalation.
Right, for cost.
It's similar to a CPI.
Adjustment.
But it's, right,
Uh-huh.
correct.
But I was just wanting to clarify, again, my understanding is because of the MRF situation, it truly isn't feasible for us to even look at taking it internally until at least 2020.
Correct. And I would tell you that price that they provided, and I can't speak necessarily for Republic Service. They are here if we wanted to bring them up and have them answer any questions. But my understanding is that price that was provided in the bid proposal was based upon the 5-year contract. So if we even could change it, I don't really know what that would do to the price that they proposed. I don't know what the legal ramifications are, but I'd say that you're welcome to ask any questions with regard to the contract, see if Republic wants to answer those questions. Would you like us to invite them to the podium?
Before you do that, I want to ask another question, Paul. I'm sorry.
No,
But,
take your time.
Also, on this, we talked upstairs briefly in pre-council about the auditing aspect that the contractor is sort of incorporating in this new proposal or bid. Our conversation upstairs, I guess this is where I'm headed with it, in terms of what we're also doing with the ordinance that is going to sort of trail after this. How much flexibility do we have with regard to what the auditing aspect is with this? I mean, I'm not clear on the auditing aspect of it either.
Yes,
So if you want to let the contractor address it, that's fine, or if you would like to address that,
I'd say that they would probably do a better job representing it. It is outlined in the bid proposal. It was something that we, based upon the concerns of the council and our constituents, we were very careful, Vaughn, myself, and Matt Faulkner, the sanitation stormwater manager. We tried to make sure that we incorporated a lot of the concerns that were voiced to us either by email, phone call, or even direct face-to-face conversations. One of those obviously was related to the contamination in the recycling cans. And we know, obviously, we've worked with Republic Services to try to make sure that we educate as best we can, door to door, or even direct mailers. But in the end, some people don't necessarily, they're just bad actors. They don't make the right choices sometimes. So the auditing process, we felt like in the previous contract wasn't necessarily as well defined. It was a little bit ambiguous. So Republic Services took the lead and chose to make it a little, in my opinion, more clearly communicated in the new RFP or the proposal. But I would like to invite Republic, specifically Crystal or whomever, or Jay, the GM, to come forward and maybe explain in greater detail. I want you all to have the confidence that we have as staff making the recommendation. We want you all to have that same level of confidence with regard to the contract. So I want them to answer any questions you have now before we enter into the,
Mayor and Council, I'd also like to caution you and to remind you that what we have is a bid from 2 different vendors based upon a set of specifications. We don't need to be modifying those specifications on the floor of the council, because that changes the specification, and the other bidder would have a legitimate concern about that. So I'm just saying we have to kind of live within the specification that, as it was bid.
Well, can I just make a statement in that regard, though? Here's my problem with that issue. My problem with that issue is we had a problem before this ever was introduced and went out to bid on a proposal. And we didn't have a conversation with regard to the terms that were going out to bid in the first place. So in terms of, I understand that we can have ramifications with regard to sending it back, but we can also revoke both of those bid proposals and go right back to the drawing table and do it again.
Absolutely.
And so my problem is, you know, from where I'm sitting, is whether we're going to take action on either one of these or move to reject both of them and go all the way back to start. Because I ask very early on for us to have input, and we didn't have input on the front end of this. So again, the problems, if there is a problem that we're left with at this point, it's because we weren't proactive enough on the front end, in my opinion. So that said, I'll just wait to hear what comes out.
Okay. Did you want to add anything before? Would you like Republic to come forward and kind of talk about the auditing, or is there another? I mean, I want to make sure we're getting exactly what you need in terms of answers. And I will tell you that your concerns were definitely taken into account. When we put the RFP together, we didn't necessarily do it in a vacuum. We also had conversations with the other communities that are around us that also do single stream curbside. And we had long conversations with the people that manage those, not only the contracts, but those programs for solid waste, to make sure that what we were doing was appropriate, you know, with regard to the services we could provide. And I'll tell you that we spent some time to make sure that your concerns specifically related to contamination and related to the plastic bags and various other commingled commodities were addressed the best that we could. And I'll tell you that there is no perfect fit, but what we did do is provide an opportunity for our contractor to address those concerns. And if we need to, like we talked about before, it's not a bad idea. We've seen it done before, to provide an opportunity for the city to add an auditing. It's not going to hurt us, because in the end, we have to do it on the trash side too. So there's an opportunity to maybe beef that up if we chose to do it after the fact.
But if we do decide to add auditing, we would have to get staff in, am I correct?
I think there's a strong possibility that if we chose to beef that up, Christine, I don't know that we would have the existing staffing without changing or restructuring the solid waste department. We don't necessarily have a person employed to do that right now.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
That's what I was getting at.
Mr. Henson, I'm a little confused. Is there some concern that the RFP that went out, there was something flawed in the process legally, or?
No.
Sorry. It's what the parameters are, in my opinion. Again, here's, just to clarify, Vaughn, and we've had conversations about this, but my ask, for example, about what is our option to run this program internally. And you all did the specs for that and so forth. But it was done after the RFP went out, and now we have the bid proposals are all set for 5-year terms. It's clear to me that because of the exclusivity with regard to the MRF, that we don't have the ability to implement our own internal system at least until 2020. But we're looking at a situation where, you know, we're beyond 2020 because now the contract is a 5-year term, so we're going through 2023, if I'm not mistaken. Phil, is that right? Right. So, do you understand what I'm saying? So it's sort of, you have one option. We have 2 contractors, 2 bid proposals for one option, which are 5-year agreements. There wasn't language addressing them that we could select them on an annual basis, that we could go on a year to year. It's sort of a take 5 years or don't take 5 years. That's kind of how I'm looking at it.
I'm not sure.
We
could have written it that way.
Yeah.
I'd feel fairly certain, and I'd let Republic speak to this, but having been a contractor in another life, the longer deal you're going to give me, the better the price will be. You give me all your business for a certain length of time, I'm going to make my price right, versus on a day-to-day or month to month, or it's no different renting a house month to month or anything else, signing a lease on a piece of property. The longer deal you'll give me, the better price you're going to get per month or per acre or whatever. So
And I completely agree with that
We're-
concept, but my deal now at this point is an apple and oranges, because it's staying with the contractor for 5 years versus us being able to operate this system on an internal basis, if that's what the council elected to do. That's where I'm going with it.
I think what needs to be pointed out, Councilwoman Eads, is that there's another issue here that probably wasn't as clearly defined in that proposal that you read, not from Republic, but from our staff. And that is that commodity rates, which is part of what builds that cost for not only our contractor, but for us, are pretty volatile. The commodities market is worldwide. Part of the reason we have our plastic bag issue is because there are barges, as we've talked about, barges full of plastic bags parked off out in the ocean. They can't go anywhere because China has rejected all those bags and plastic film and a number of other issues. Well, the fact that there's no place that wants them forced the change on everybody in the United States. The other part of that that's important for us to think about is that there's a lot of volatility. As Vaughn and I have talked about before, it's a lot like agriculture. If you have a glut of wheat, tons of wheat, all the silos are full, there's people, there's no incentive, you're not going to get money for it when you go to try to sell it because the market's flooded. We're in a situation very similar with regard to the commodities. And unfortunately, that's a pretty volatile market. There's a lot of ups and downs. So what I want to do is give a quick explanation about how one of the things that we learned through this process, Norman have their own carts. They bought their own carts 5 years ago at the beginning of the contract and did not let the contractor provide those carts. Their intent at the end of that 5 years was to do their own recycling. That was part of what they thought they would do. Well, what they determined, and same thing we determined, is over the last 6 to 8 months, given the fact the last 2 years have been incredibly volatile and there's no guarantee what that commodity market's going to look like, they backed away from the table and said, we're going to contract it out. We can't afford, but the hard part is we don't operate for a profit.
Right, they
And as
contracted away the risk.
And as it stands, they tell you, don't invest money you can't afford to lose. I'm not willing to invest the citizens' money on something that we can't, in a good conscience, guarantee that we can control those costs. It's a little bit risky, and especially given the current market. It's not to say that it's always going to be that way, and there may be an opportunity in the future, but combined with the fact that we're limited about who we can take our material to, it was just, could we do it? Absolutely. But can we provide enough assurances that there wasn't any liability or any risk to our customers? That would be very difficult to do. Does that help?
I mean, I understand.
And that's part of the reason this 5-year contract, same reason.
I grew up on a farm. I totally
Yeah,
understand commodities
yeah,
too.
yeah.
I mean, and I understand the unforeseen. You know, you have a grain embargo, for example, you're going to suffer the penalty there. But, you know,
And that's
again,
that's part of it. I mean, admittedly, here's the tough part. This is a complex issue, and I think anybody, given enough time, could really understand it. But it would take a lot of effort, and obviously we're neck deep in it, and so is Matt, and so is, anybody you talk to. This is not a simple thing. We just felt like, given the constraints and some of the limitations that we have, it was in our best interest to go ahead and use this 5-year term to really evaluate what the feasibility is in year 3 or 4. Make a decision forward thinking and find out what our options are, rather than trying to make a decision and admittedly, before this RFP went out. But the reality is, given those constraints, it's in our best interest to wait to that year 3, year 4, evaluate what our resources are, what our options are, and give us the opportunity to put together, in my opinion, an appropriate plan of action that might give you all the ultimate latitude in the decision.
And your recommendation, Paul, then, is to re-award the contract to Republic for the 5-year term. Am
Correct.
I understanding that correct?
Correct.
Okay. But we have another contractor who is here with us. Am I understanding that correct?
Your other bidder that's on your bid tab sheet is also present.
I don't think he's still here. I think Rick left. But
Waste Management was here earlier, but
Okay.
they left.
All right.
And their price was 75 cents or thereabouts.
Considerably
Yeah, it was
higher,
considerably higher per resident over what our rate was.
And
with
more
Republic.
risky when you drill down and read the fine print.
So if I understand what you're saying through all this, the city's risk is minimal, our contractors is high.
Correct. Very high.
Because this is that's their business, and it's something that they specialize in.
I don't think
we can't just react for 2 years if we think about 2020. That's 2 years from now.
When China decided to stop
we wouldn't
buying,
be prepared in 2 years.
those who when we chose to get in this business 5 years ago and provide this service to our citizens, I don't think anybody was able to predict at that point that China was going to stop buying. And our information is there are literally warehouses all over the United States. There are barges parked all over the Pacific Ocean, loaded down with bales of recyclables, plastics, cardboard, paper, no place to go with them. There's nobody buying. And that has created a very, like Paul says, a very volatile situation. Could we do it, Mr. Mayor, ourselves? Absolutely we can. You know we can do it. We can do about anything that we set our mind to on this staff. But it would be an extremely risky business to try to get into at this point in time, in our opinion. So.
Okay, let me step forward for just a second because I'm the one pressing these buttons and asking these questions type of thing. I appreciate the clarification, Robert and Vaughn, and all of your hard work on this because you guys went to task to look at this from the perspective on short term to come forward with what it would take for us to look at even bringing this in-house. And I do respect both of your all's opinion, and I wasn't clear with regard to where we were at with the recommendation. I'm sorry. It may be something that I miss on the uptake of reviewing this information. But what I do want to say at this point is and Paul, you've worked very hard with a particular constituent. I've had others, but complaints about the recycling services. I appreciate the contractor's willingness to engage in a stronger auditing program. I appreciate the city staff's willingness to work to revise the ordinance that we discussed upstairs on further information with regard to these issues. That being said, and given your all's recommendation and the discussion we've had, I'm going to go ahead and move that we go forward to proceed with the 5-year contract.
I think we was going to listen to Crystal. She has something. Was you going to explain about the audit?
If we're giving her a contract, she's going to be perfectly happy to sit right there, I can assure you.
Wait a minute, you brought up the audit issue about the auditing.
Let me just say, one of the big things they always tell you, Christine, is if you're standing there and somebody's giving you what you want, just sit down and shut up type of thing. So no disrespect,
Crystal,
ma'am, if you wish to come forward.
Something you to come up and talk to us about your plan for as to auditing, how you would like to go out into the schools and educate. You come tell us that? Yeah, let us know about that.
But just let me finish my thought, if you would, for 1 second. I'm just going to let my motion stand, Mr. Mayor, and if anybody wants to second it after this lovely lady gives her presentation.
From a parliamentary standpoint, we'll be good with that. Go ahead and approach the podium, ma'am.
Thank you.
And please state your name and who you're with.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council in the city. My name is Crystal Bennett. I am with Republic Services.
I'm Jay Hotchadell with Republic Services.
Perfect. So with the contamination, the sticker was a big thing last year. We worked really hard to get those residuals down. I am very active with Paul and Vaughn and Matt and about coming up with programs and doing things in the community to get the community involved, because I will say kudos to you all. 50% participation residentially is what is nationwide, and you all are at 76%, which that's an awesome thing. I mean, I know I have cities, we're all over the United States, and I have cities looking at you, Edmond and Norman, the 3 cities that I manage, and just how well you have done with this. I think we can continue on. I would like to do touch a trucks within the elementary schools, go out, educate them, let them, in their Wednesday folder, there is nothing better than to me have a piece of paper saying, this is what your child learned today. I'm ready to do that here. I know Paul has partnered with me, and we have done that before. As far as contamination goes, we're really going to tackle it from that aspect about what you can and cannot recycle, and just try to be as explicit as we can. When it comes to auditing, I know that that's really hard because that's a different thing. That's actually opening up somebody's and going through somebody's trash. Sometimes it's really obvious when there's a pool hanging out of it or something different. But I also think that doing some type of program that you were saying, that you were talking about maybe making a penalty would be a wonderful thing. I know Matt has extensive experience in that. I just think that there's a lot of things that we could move forward with. I mean, the residuals showed up. There was a big price decrease between me and the competitor. I think that is a lot to do with we have faith in Midwest City. I mean, we saw what you guys did within 6 months of reducing those residuals, and we're basing that. I mean, we enjoy our partnership with you. I have to tell you, I don't work with any better group of men than the Public Works Department here. I have 27 cities. This is the best. So,
and I would like to ask this. I would like to state this, that we mentioned auditing. Maybe if we do the education part, maybe, the auditing.
Right, and that's what we're hoping on.
Right.
That's what we're
I think
hoping
we need
for.
to see.
Let me
Take one
ask
step
you a question. How much discretion do your drivers have? If they're going down the street and they see a kid's pool hanging out the daggum bin, can't they just drive past it and not pick it up?
So in that example, yes, if it's that obvious that something's hanging out, they can do that. We would obviously notify our contact within the city and let them know that something's going on. And the city's always, Paul and his team have always been very responsive to get out there.
So they do have the discretion of kind of auditing on the street. If they see something stupid, then they can just drive past it, right?
Yes, sir, to a certain degree. And the only thing I would mention is, 9 times, 85, 90% of the cans are closed, right? So they don't necessarily see them. It's an automated process.
Yeah, I get that, but
Sure.
I've got some neighbors that
Sure, yeah.
they're not.
As do we all
Okay.
do, right? So.
You know what's worse than a city auditor? Your wife. And she does. My wife, I've heard about it several times.
Well, with that being said, we do, and thank you guys for being here. And I personally am very satisfied with the services that Republic has provided for us. The plastic bag issue, but we'll tap dance around that and we'll get it taken care of. But we've got some options on the table that we're going to be looking at. Thank you for being here. And with that being said,
Thank you, Crystal.
Eads, we do have a motion.
I'll second.
And I have a second. Any further discussion on this item?
Crystal, I want to talk to you about some schools too, that we get all of the schools in Midwest City. Okay. All right.
We'll make sure she does.
All right, thank you, Vaughn. Got
I get
you.
where you're coming from, yes.
Do we have any further discussion?
Oh, I think we're finished. Yeah.
Okay. With that being said, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Mayor, could I say something?
Yes, sir, you may.
I guess I would like to, I know that there was a tremendous amount of time that was put into this process, and it may not have been perfect, but it's it's something that we touch every 4 or 5 years, and this is our second go round. So I know there was a little bit of a learning curve for us, but I know that the work that Vaughn and that Paul and that Matt, our newest guy in this world, they put in a tremendous amount of time and effort, and I think we ought to give them a big thank you for what they did.
Thank you.
Okay, with that being said, we'll move into our new business public discussion of our agenda. Anyone having anything to bring before the authority? Hearing none, we do have one item of further information I bring your attention to, and we'll be seeing that in future council meetings.
Quick announcement, Mr. Mayor and
Yes, sir.
council. This Saturday, Midstate Traffic will be finally replacing the signal controllers at 29th and Air Depot and at I-40 and Air Depot. The signals will all be down. There'll be periods of time when they're totally black and stop signs will be out. So just be advised, this is from the drunk incident almost 60 days ago. that ran over the control cabinets. Hopefully, I know you've had some complaints, several of you have had, by citizens and employees at Tinker, but this weekend, hopefully we're on the road to getting all that back in good order, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan.
They're going to start early Saturday morning. Mhm.
I'll pass that on to Tinker tomorrow morning. Any further discussion on this agenda? Hearing none, we're hereby adjourned. And finally, I call to order the Midwest City Utilities Authority. We do have one discussion item on this agenda.
This is discussion consideration of one entering into executive session as allowed under 25 OS Section 307C10 to confer on matters pertaining to economic development, including the transfer of property, financing, or the creation of a proposal to entice a business to remain or locate within the city.
I think we need to approve the minutes from. Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I did.
Okay, this is discussion and consideration of approving the staff briefing and the special meeting minutes of October 10th, 2017, as submitted.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Who's in favor of him reading that thing again? I would entertain a motion to move into executive session.
Motion to go into executive session.